My regular Thursday panel, Michael Kroger and Stephen Conroy. It's really all about now, Michael, getting jabs into arms. That is the main game, surely, as we try and navigate our way through another difficult period in this pandemic, Michael.
Yeah, but let's take a step back and see what's happened here. We now know, beyond a question of a doubt, that Atagi and the chief health officers in the states have been following an elimination strategy. That's what they've been doing. It's an extreme form of advice. It's an extreme form of advice because it takes no account of the health consequences of what they're doing and of the actual economic carnage being reaped on small businesses, medium-sized businesses around this country and the damage and wreckage which that's going to leave behind. So we have an elimination strategy, and that's never been publicly announced, but that's what's happening. And of course, now we need to get jabs in arms. But God knows where this is going to go now, because this is what we're doing. And these lockdowns are going to continue from time to time, because that's the strategy we now know we're following, Kieran.
This is a very interesting situation, as Michael points out. It is basically an eradication or elimination strategy, Stephen, as we await enough vaccines to be rolled out. And obviously it's been delayed, but still the Prime Minister hopeful that everyone would have been offered a vaccine by the end of the year.
Well, he's been hopeful that he would get 4 million people with vaccine by March. And then in March, he produced a plan that said by now, today, he'd have 25 million Australians vaccinated, and we've only got 10.5 million Australians with their first jab. So let's be clear, just because the Prime Minister goes on television and, gives more words on vaccines, doesn't mean we should take any notice of them. But like Michael Kroger is now Robinson Crusoe, because even yesterday, the Victorian Liberal Party adopted a hardline close the border strategy. In fact, they actually came out and publicly attacked Daniel Andrews for not closing the state down faster. So everybody else in the country but Michael Kroger understands what the strategy is, understands what we're trying to achieve. And yes, you're right that we need to get the vaccine rollout, but we'll have brass bands turning up to these planes landing around the country. I mean, how many more cheap, pathetic publicity stunts will we have to put up with to just cover the fact that this is Scott Morrison's incompetence writ large? I mean, I think you're being incredibly generous, and you're a generous type of guy, Kieran. So you're being incredibly generous to describe what the Prime Minister did today as an apology. Go and read Darren Chester on Facebook.
He did say sorry.
That's a real apology. He said sorry because the vaccine rollout was delayed. He didn't say, I'm sorry, it was our fault that the vaccine was delayed. It was an apology with no responsibility for it. Read Darren Chester. And Darren Chester knew exactly what he was doing on Facebook. He's just been dumped. So he wanted to say, here's a real apology on behalf of the government, because I know the Prime Minister won't give you a real apology.
Whether he's said sorry or not, which he did say sorry, Michael. He's been blamed for it by many, and you can see that in the latest polling. It's not a great time for the PM or the government.
No, that's exactly what's happening. The premiers are looking strong because they're making strong decisions about shutdowns and border closures. The Prime Minister is looking weaker because one of the things he's got to do is bring the vaccines here to Australia, and that's not being delivered. It's 2 months delayed, and so he gets criticised for that. So he's taking short-term pain at the minute. But you look at overseas and you think of these companies producing these vaccines like Pfizer, they look at Australia and they'd say, well, they're following an elimination strategy there, and every time there's a problem, they close the whole place down and hardly anybody's died compared to the rest of the world. How urgently do they need Pfizer compared to other countries which have had much higher death rates and are not following elimination strategies but are reopening their countries, therefore more urgently need the Pfizer doses? Well, that's what these companies are thinking. Why the rush to give vaccines to Scott Morrison?
Well, why did Scott Morrison
the country's closed down?
Why did he call the head of Pfizer?
Because
Kevin Rudd
clearly because
him.
Yeah, of course. Oh, Kevin Rudd. Kevin Rudd embarrassed himself, Stephen, as you well know. I'm sure Scott Morrison, Greg and others have been pursuing these contracts as best they can. But as I said, these manufacturers are looking at Australia and thinking, you're not at the top of the queue in terms of necessity. There are countries like India, Indonesia, Europe, which are open, America, which is open, desperately needing Pfizer. Australia down there with 920 odd people who've died. What's the hurry down there? Why do we need to urgently ship vaccines to a country where the death rate's one of the lowest in the world?
Stephen, we've only got 20 seconds left, but quickly, your final response.
Well, Michael is extraordinary. He's attacked the target. He's now blaming everybody else for why the Prime Minister and Greg Hunt failed to sign contracts 12 months ago. Every press conference and stunt that is happening right now is because of the incompetence of Hunt and the Prime Minister last year.
Stephen Conroy, Michael Kroger, gentlemen, the crazy times continue. I appreciate it, as always. Great to see you back.